Hey guys, welcome back to another Helluva Boss Discussion. I am Dazzling Kate, and welcome back for those who are old here, and welcome for those who are new here. So, in today's video, we'll be discussing three of the main characters, Loona, Millie, and Moxxie, because honestly, let's be real, they are definitely swept under the rug, at least 90% of the time. And it always goes back to Blitz and Stolas. I'm being honest here. It's writing the script for this was frustrating because honestly, I generally try to go from so many of these things into one video just to make it easier for my brain, but it's like I'm gonna have to shorten it up. Because what I have to say is that I'm not really amused by the fact that all three of these characters generally don't really have much episodes. And what I mean is, even when they do, when they're supposed to stand on their own, it always goes back to Blitz. It always goes back to Blitz being the main character. And I'm not really much against it, but I'm also like, it kind of sends awkward vibe. Like, what's the best way to describe this? I don't have any words to actually describe this. It's just, yeah, it's just poorly constructed, poorly thought through, and honestly, it doesn't really help matters that a lot of the time when people are like focused entirely on the relationship between Stolas and Blitz, it's just like, what do you do with the other three? The three characters who are supposed to be main characters for the series. Like, what do you do with that? Like, what the fuck do you do? Because, oh my goodness, I'm just frustrated with a lot of the elements that we've basically come to see. It's very much so frustrating to work with these stories and then never really see them actually develop. It's just like, it's there, I guess. It's there. Maybe it might develop. Maybe it won't. Who knows? Who knows? But it's like with these three characters that are supposed to be part of the main cast, they're generally just not really well thought through. They have their personalities. I'm not saying they're non-existent, but it's barely scratching the surface with these three. I mean, honestly, most of the time, it goes straight back to Blitz being the main character. Or it's like, when it comes to anyone's plot, it goes straight back to Blitz. Like, remember season 2, episode 5? When it was like a Moxxie and Millie episode, and then it was like, oh wait, then, Blitz came in and it was all connected all along. Even though I feel like that could have been actually used as a build-up for a different episode, which would be Ghost Fuckers. And I honestly think that it would have been interesting to see Moxxie have this, like, maybe he was close to encountering the killer, and then it's like, he only has one piece of evidence to see who this killer was, because he didn't see their face, and then it continues off of Ghost Fuckers. Those two episodes could have been a Moxxie and Millie episode. I'm just saying, entirely, it should have been. Like, I would have thought it would be interesting that, like, if they had done that, like, focus entirely on these two characters for that, like, those episodes. What we could probably think of for Ghost Fuckers is that, I don't know, Blitz gets distracted by something, thinks it's a ghost, and has to work with it to escape one of the rooms. I don't know. And he's stuck in there for like most of the time, and it's like, where the fuck have you been, sir? Yeah, fucking ghosts. I don't know. It honestly would have been more interesting for that to happen than it. I know a lot of people loved that episode, and I'm not saying it's like a horrible episode. I'm just, the connection there would have actually been interesting for an investigation to go through, because they're both focused on trying to find, killers, and it would have been interesting to connect those two, and it would have probably had spared us some like awkward moments, like severely. Yeah, I'm still not I'm not over episode 2 being eh eh eh. And it honestly is kind of sad that most of the time when it comes to these things, it's supposed to basically be like, oh, well, it's like, a lot of people will defend the show and even the shitty episodes with like a burning passion. They will be like, but in this episode, like this, like episode 5 was like essential to introduce Blitz's sister, and it's like, well, it doesn't really do much of a good job. It really doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't do that much damage. I mean, it does damage, but like, it in a different way of damage. And honestly, it would have been interesting to see that be a character story for Moxxie, instead of it just being, well, much of anything else. It's frustrating. Very frustrating. And honestly, it's should have been more developed with Millie as well. We could have actually seen some other elements of Millie's character in those 2 episodes than just what we got. Because honestly, there is a lot there. And the fact that season 2 only has like 1 episode for Loona, it's like, I know a lot of people will try and count the star episode, but I'm like, that doesn't really feel like a Loona episode, other than like we see Loona losing her temper and being annoyed with Blitz. It just honestly feels off. Like, really off. Oh, and like, yeah. It's just frustrating. Very much so, that I'm just... It's so interesting that we have all these episodes, and it always goes back to Blitz in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't really develop as anything else than just it being Blitz's episodes in some degree, and it's like, yeah, it needs some work there. And honestly, man, I gotta stop saying honestly, but the fact that there's so many episodes connected to mostly just being barely functional in season 2 especially, I feel as though, like, compared to season 1, season 2 just kind of falls flat with some of the story elements that they're trying to implement and trying to raise the characters up in some way, shape, or form, but it always goes back down at the end of the episode, and it's just like, what the fuck? Where did this fucking come from? How, like... And I guess who we really gotta blame is Bibsy Pop for not really thinking her plots through. Not thinking of the character development moments, and then ignoring the fact that a lot of these characters are basically, what's the word? What is the word for this? Hollow. They're all hollow. Aside from Blitz and Stolas, they're overfilled with moments and personality and shit. Everyone else, they're just hollow. Millie doesn't have that many centric episodes, and even if she did, it would always go back to Blitz. And it's frustrating, because I feel like, though, Millie could be a very better developed character. And she's the most underrated character of the entirety of the cast. It just feels like she's just forgotten about. And granted, Vivzy Pop does try to, like, give Millie and Loona some more personality by, like, having Millie get pregnant in Sinsmas and Loona has friends. Like, those two things I was really excited about for Sinsmas. But then over time, when I noticed the, like, amount of people commenting about that, and then on the other videos I've watched people talk about, it always goes back to the fact that this is the only interesting thing you're willing to do, and it's just basically regress them down to only getting those things at the very end to kind of prove that they have an idea of what they want in life. And it's just like, what the hell? Like, now we're given this, even though we have a shit ton of Blitz episodes, Stolish related episodes, and this is the best we can get for these two characters, is that we only get, like, the crumbs for them. Like, maybe season 3 might develop these things, but I'm not really sure. Like, I am not entirely sure what they're going to do with it and how they're going to go about it. It's just like rather weird of what they're going to try and do. Like, I feel like it's definitely going to stay focused in the Blitz and Stolas relationship, but it just feels like they found another reason to not go about it, not, like, focus entirely on it. And it's like, what the hell? And as you can tell in the background, I am failing miserably in trying to do a sort of Helluva style, but it's like, no, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well. But yeah, it's the lack of any development for Loona is obviously seen if you compare the pilot Loona to current Loona. We barely see any development for her. Barely. Now she has friends, yay, I guess. Even though it's implied that she's had plenty of friends, even though we don't really see her interact with them throughout the seasons, yay. And then having the fact that Millie and Moxxie just barely, like, they've barely had an argument aside from season 2, episode 5, which I feel, again, that episode just, not really helping anybody. But yeah, it's just frustrating to know that there's barely any thought put into these characters' moments. It's just like, well, looks like we kinda have something going on for them. Sort of. Like, barely scratching it. Never gonna get more acknowledged than this, because if we did more effort, then it would be noticeable that we put effort into it. That's basically what I get from Vivzy Pop's characters, is that they're barely even there. They're barely developed. They're barely trying to be seen. It's just, oh yes, let's hope for the best. Let's hope for the best, guys. Like, who knows? Maybe it might develop. Maybe. I say that with a big maybe. Maybe. But yeah, it's just frustrating a lot of the time, because if we don't get any developed moments for them, how are we going to, like, see them interact with Blitz and their changing view? Like, if we remember anything from Sinsmas, if anything, comparing to season 1, episode 1, to Sinnsmith, Blitz was willing to do everything to break that family. Oh, but this one's different because he saw himself in them. And I guess there was some moments that developed to that, but it just didn't add up for the fact that it was basically a job, and it was like, what? What? It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And it's unfortunate. I gotta stop saying it's unfortunate. Gosh, I sound like a depressed person every time I say, like, I always feel like, well, even though I am depressed. To some degree, not, like, all the time. But, like, we mostly see that as one of the excuses for, like, Stolas, and it's like, ugh. Meanwhile, characters like Moxxie, Millie, and Loona are just thrown in the trash. Who cares about their episodes? Who cares about their episodes? They barely scratch the surface of making an impact for it. Like, for the plot, and it's like, whatever. Yeah, we're just supposed to, like, think it's fully developed. I feel like a lot of the time people are just like, oh, but, like, they are developed. They are very developed. And it's like, where the fuck is that development? Where is it? Where is it? Like, is it hidden amongst, like, the background somewhere? Is it there? Is it there? I don't know. What I do know is that this series lacks in developing their main characters aside from only one of them. Basically everyone else, they're treated like trash. If you're not in a full focused relationship with Stolas, at least they're treated like trash. The episodes that we could have gotten, which I feel is important that we implement a little bit more episodes for these characters. Maybe season 3. But I'm not holding any hope for it. I'm really not. It's already asking for a lot when it's just like, oh, right, yeah. Like, just maybe they'll actually remember that these other characters exist. Maybe not. It's why I don't have a whole lot of faith for it. It's like, oh yeah, like, we finally remembered who these characters were. Yay us! I feel like the only time they're probably gonna, like, do some episodes of the others is if they have enough interesting plots for them, despite them actually having the concepts. It's just how you implement them. It's a lot of the time it's just the problem of having Vivzy Pop writing the episodes. I can talk from a creator standpoint about this. I have plenty of characters who I know I can't write worth shit. Does that mean I automatically give up? Hell no. Hell to the no. It just means I gotta get more information. And where we lack in information for this series is that Vivzy Pop doesn't really do that. She doesn't try to do any research with some of these topics, and the way that the female characters come across, especially, is annoying, very frustrating in the fact that even their main characters from Has Been Hotel is lacking, like, very much so lacking. Charlie and Vaggy's relationship, it's lacking. It's not giving any big energy of, oh, good characters. They're just invisible, even in their own fucking show. It's like, what the hell? If you remove them entirely and replace them with cutouts, people would not be able to tell the difference. Like, and that's sad. That's really sad. And it's going to be frustrating to see in the next seasons for both these shows. and it's going to definitely make an impact. But yeah, I'm currently also working on a Vaggie and Charlie video, which I would imagine would be out in the next week or two. It's just a matter of making sure I have all my ducks in a row, I guess. Yeah, sorry about the jokes there, guys, but anyways, all these characters are just basically invisible in their own show. They're not even like given enough screen time to develop. Nonetheless, to help the characters who are the main attention. We don't really see that in like Mastermind when, you know, all three of these characters are supposed to get like, you know, a trial, and it's like it's half-assed because, you know, Vibsy Pop doesn't want to write that kind of stuff or tell their story from their like point of view of how, you know, irresponsible Blitz is or whatever, and how he is innocent in this area because he didn't do it. It's like, yeah, who cares about that? Who cares about putting effort into something you love? Let's take the easy way out and do more soap opera shit. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And then everyone eats it up like fucking candy, and it's like, what the hell? But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. It's sad that there's barely any information for development for these three, and even though they're like the main cast, there should be at least a couple of good episodes for them, but there's nothing really there that makes them memorable, that really makes them stand out. Like, there's only a handful of moments, and that's it. The rest is just spent on half-assed bullshit. And it's the only thing Vibsy Pops is good at doing is pushing up her like Stolas and Blitz relationship, and then Fitzgerald and Ozzy's relationship, and hoping that it's amazing for everyone to watch because it's like, you know, cute and like they're gay and stuff, and everyone loves that, and like it's definitely banking off of that. Is it good? Not really, development wise, and that's again, those stories will be discussed in another video. It's just sad that we have main characters who are overlooked for the sake of Vibsy Pop writing off of her like relationships that she made, and not even trying to make it obvious of who she likes the most and who she wants to build, like, you know, lots of cutesy stuff after. And it's sad. It's sad that they don't get any real development. It's sad that a lot of the time other characters will get overshadowed because they're not this way or that way or whatever. It's sad. It's really freaking sad. Because this can be an amazing show if there was work and effort put into the main cast. It's just problematic that we don't see that, and then we're just like, we're basically writing in with no helmet. No, that's not the best. What kind of freaking script is this? Like, oh my fucking god. This is ridiculous. You know what? It's just basically going in like a fucking chicken with no head. That's basically the whole premise of the entire show for season 2. All of it's just poorly written, poorly developed, and unless it's gonna bank off of, like, you know, the boys being all cutesy and stuff, that's what it is. I'm not afraid to be honest about it. It's unfortunately a part of the way that some people like to capitalize off of that stuff, and there are so many words to describe how weird it is to bank off of cutesy wootsy relationships, even though it's not really cutesy wootsy. It's just really poorly constructed, soap opera-y, barely scratching the surface for making it interesting. And I know plenty of people who are loving that kind of thing, but they don't love the way that it's written in the show. Like, usually it just kind of implies that, like, these gay relationships are just there to basically be sold as profit and not really developed into anything that could mean something. I mean, it just is adorable, and that's it. There's a lot of things people have already said about it doing a lot of sexualizing and merchandising off of, like, I mean, not merchandising, profiting off of the adorableness of the relationship. And it's not really, to me, adorable. It just feels half-assed and poorly constructed. My middle school self could write a better relationship than Vipsy Pop, and I guarantee it would be making more sense. Sorry about Evie in the background. She likes scratching the floor as a hobby. But yeah, anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you did, and if you are... Oh my goodness, she is... Yep. Yeah, I can't pause the recording, guys. You're gonna have to... You're gonna have to deal with it. It's something that happens off and on. I just wasn't expecting it to happen right now. So it's kind of adorable, but it's kind of like... Yeah. Anyways, I guess that's a great way to stop recording, and I will get back to you guys in another video. So stay safe, stay cool, and most importantly, guys, stay hydrated. This is Dazzling Kate signing the hell out of here.